Kia ora. Today we're going to be speed painting a Deathguard POXWALKER for Warhammer 40k. It's going to be really dirty, really colourful, and really fun. Let's get into it. So speed painting is all about, obviously, speed. We want to paint minis as fast as we can and keep them looking as good as we can. Speed painting is usually for the tabletop, getting things ready to take to a tournament or, maybe play with your friends, whatever it happens to be. Sometimes speed painting is also just for practice and kind of getting a technique down. The one way to improve any technique is to just do it more. And so by doing things faster and kind of moving through more miniatures and moving through different textures, we can learn a lot from it. So today we're going to be speed painting this POXWALKER. He's really cool looking. I've put him on one of the Necromunda bases, so there's a bit of rust and things going on there. I kind of wanted my Deathguard to look like they were maybe part of a corrupted ship, maybe one of their own ships, maybe it's the Eisenstein, one of those cool ones. One thing that really helps speed painting is cutting out anything that's going to take too long to dry. Something that takes too long to dry is, of course, washes. So with this one, I'm going to be limiting him to just one wash, because I want to make sure that we can move through it as fast as possible. What's the one wash that we can't live without? Of course, it's Agrax. And when you're painting anything Nurgle, Agrax is your best friend. So I'm just going to dive straight in. We're going to start putting on some coats. And the first thing will be, of course, to paint all of those things that are going to take Agrax, because we want that to be drying while we're doing everything else. So let's get into it. Okay, so I've got laid out in front of me all of the colours that we're going to be using to paint down before we put on the Agrax wash. So we've got our leather, our metals, got the bone colour, and this is typhus corrosion over here. And so I like to do that before I add the wash. It kind of helps tie it all together once we splash it all in there. So first things first, let's get some of these colours on. Okay, cool. So there's all of the colours that we're going to be basing our miniature with before we put down the Agrax. We got the brown over all the leathers, we got the metal over all of the metallic areas before we put down the typhus, and of course Balthazar gold for the bronze and Rakarth flesh for the horns. That's a nice neutral white there, kind of earthy white, which is quite nice. But before that, of course, we're going to put down typhus corrosion. So this colour is awesome. Not really a colour, it's like a texture. If you've never used it before, it's very, very kind of gritty, adds a cool texture to everything that you're painting it on. I'd recommend that you have a different brush for this. So I've just got like an old worn out brush here that I'm going to use. I just take a little bit off, put it on my palette, and really heavily just drown all of these metallic areas in it. I'm going to take to this with a hairdryer real quick. When you're batch painting or speed painting or anything like that, having a hairdryer handy is quite useful sometimes, just for speeding up dry times if you particularly want to move on really quickly, which is what we do right now when we're speed painting a single miniature. If you've got a batch of 10 or 20, then that's probably not necessary to have the hairdryer to blow dry, because by the time you get to the 10th or 20th one, the washes have started to dry by the time you get to it. So I'm just going to air dry this real quick. Okay, so that is all dry. Now, using that same brush we used with the typhus, maybe an older brush, we're going to grab some of this wash and quite heavily just kind of slap it all over these metal and leather areas that we previously base coated. Give it all a nice, quick bit of definition. Awesome, so I'm just going to let that dry, probably take to it with the hairdryer again just to speed it up for me. It's actually quite warm in here, so it might have dried pretty quick, but I'll be back in a sec. So So now that he's dry, we can move on to the skin, and because this is a speed paint, we want to be mixing all of our colors really quickly on the fly and kind of moving fast with our brush, keeping everything wet while we kind of blend and move things all around. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. All we got to do is just pick a couple of colors and start putting them on. So I've got a blue color here, which I think will be the majority of the skin, and I've got this pink color, which will be for all of this kind of more infected skin. So I've just picked these colors at random, honestly. They just complement each other quite nicely, but that's Nurgle for you, right? You just random colors. It's all gross. It's all disgusting. But anyway, let's start off with this blue Calidor Sky and start basing it up. And we're going to have our Screamer Pink right there on standby. We're going to have a little bit of this white color. It's just Vallejo white, ready for us to start blending up our highlights. So I've just got a little bit of that white on the palette. And we can just start moving quick. So while that colour is still drying, I'm going to grab some pink and just start filling out the rest of the skin, watering it down just a little bit. We can start blending it around these blue areas, just kind of dabbling it in, stippling, all of the above. Get a bit of a blend going across the side of his face here. This is like very primitive wet blending. Cool. Now we'll come back with our blue. Just quickly touch up any edges, make that blue a bit brighter in any areas where we didn't put the paint on properly. I'm good at that. Alright, so what you might start to see happening is this very kind of primitive wet blend effect where we've got wet blue, wet pink, and we're just kind of stippling the colours between each other. You can start to see the edges start to kind of blend together. So that's the start of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of white to my colours, just a little bit. See over here on the palette, I'm not really too concerned with keeping my colours pure here. A little bit of blue in my pink isn't going to hurt. So now I've got a slightly brighter blue here, a little bit more water. We're just going to come in and start stippling really quickly to give it that really kind of gross skin texture. And because it's a bit brighter, you start to see a cool highlight start to appear. Now I'll do the same with the pink. Okay, so I want to start introducing a little bit of a green hue to my blue here to give it that sickly look. So I'm just going to introduce a little bit of green to my blue. Paying no mind to how much I mix in, I'm not really that concerned. Keeping it all very loose, very fluid, and now I'm just going to start introducing a little bit of this aqua color to the blue to kind of add a nice accent to all this pink. Cool. So we've got a little bit of this green kind of going on in our blue now, which is nice. Similarly for the pink, I want to introduce a little bit of flesh color. This kind of complements our pink quite nicely. So I'm going to take a little bit of our pink, a little bit of flesh color, make a little bit of a pink blend, and start putting that on top of all the pink areas. Stippling up this highlight, giving us this really cool texture. Alright, so that skin's looking pretty close. What we're going to do now is just add a little bit of white to our skin tone to give some nice contrasting highlights, particularly around areas like his face, where we just want to bring out a couple of details. Alright, it's looking pretty neat. Next thing we're going to do is highlight all these leathers. So I'm just going to add a little bit of white to my original brown color. And with just nice gestural strokes, give them big, bold highlights. These kind of bold highlights look really good on the table. And it's also just really fun to do. Couple little nicks and scratches, of course. Wouldn't be a Sloane painting tutorial if we didn't do a few nicks and scratches. So I'm just kind of giving these leather straps kind of nice, bold highlights. It's these sorts of gestural movements that are key to effective speed painting, I think. Because you can do some pretty nice effects with it, and it doesn't take very long at all. Alright, and just a little bit more white into that same brown for some final highlights. Keeping it all fluid. Oh yeah, that looks cool. You can see these like really kind of bright highlights now, really popping off. Awesome. So that's that leather nice and quickly done. We're going to dive back into our bronze here for a sec. Bring this bronze back up, just some stipples of some bronze to kind of give some shine back into the top parts of it, nice and quick, easy peasy. Same with this little pendant down here, give a bit of luster back to it, ever so slightly. Alright, now we're going to do some work on the metal. So I've got this colour Riser Rust, I don't know why I shook it, it's very gloopy. I'm going to bring back my old brush, and this is awesome for the rust. So I just grab some of this colour here on my brush, take off any excess, but keeping it quite heavy, and I just kind of stipple it onto this like typhus area that we did. And it just kind of looks really authentic. By golly, is it fun. Build it up a little bit more towards the edge of the blade. Yeah, see how quick and easy that really rusted metal was? It looks awesome. That orange is popping off really nicely. Being random, not thinking too much where it goes. Have some focused areas, have some not focused areas. Just kind of follow your brush, let go, let loose. Awesome. Whip out some Rune Fang. What we're gonna do now that we got that authentic looking rust down, I'll take a little bit on the tip of our brush, gonna add some little nicks, little scuffs and scratches to this rusty metal part, maybe on this little mask here. And then same thing on the base, just a couple little scratches, the impression of some wear and tear. Cool. Alright. Let's jump back over to these horns. So we've got our Rakar flesh mix still going. Let's just turn the model this way, because what I like to do is just kind of pull some paint up towards the tip of them. Doop doop. Couple little strokes, big stroke, adding these kind of striations to the horn. Use the edge of your brush where you can, but otherwise just kind of pulling with the tip just adds some nice little nicks. Add a little bit of our white to the mix. Just do it again, focusing more towards the top of the horn now. Maybe just the tiniest little bit of pure white right towards the tip. Really warm off. Easy. Alright, and I just want to highlight his teeth. So some tiny little dots, because he's got a big old grin on his face. Nice. So it's looking pretty damn close to finish, right? So all I'm going to do is now I'm going to add some technical colours to it. But first of all, let's add our milk green. What I'm going to do with this, take a little bit of it into my palette, and I'm going to dilute it quite a bit, sort of halfway between a layer and a glaze, so quite thin there, enough for it to kind of fall into recesses. What I'm going to do is just in a couple of these pock marks on the in various recesses on this weapon, I'm just going to add a little bit of this really intense green. Pulling up where these nails are punctured into this guy here. Maybe we'll have a little bit kind of dribbling out the sides of his mouth. A little lens on his glasses. Maybe stipple some all over these really awful wounds. So he's got these holes in his back. Maybe put some into these holes. Maybe the odd one is leaking out. Ooh. Droop, droop. And then, what I'll do is I'll put some into these recessed parts of the base here. Keep it nice and thin so it falls into these recesses nicely. See, I'm just kind of like letting it pull up into these recesses on the base. Armpit. I'm just having fun now. Where do I want this slime to be? Alright, so that green forms a really fun, bright basis for this colour, Nurgle's Rot, which is a technical colour that adds like a cool slime effect. Perfect for Nurgle miniatures and also great for hiding all of your imperfections from speed painting. So I'm just going to blob this all over, quite loosely and liberally, all over the areas where I added that green. Neat. So last step, so we're going to add a little bit of verdigris to the bronze area. This should be quick. We've got this Nihilic Oxide here. This is a quick ready-made paint that you can use for doing any kind of bronze verdigris. Take it off and put it on the palette and just kind of mix it in. It's quite a chalky colour, but you can let it pull up nicely and just kind of drag it down to recesses on these bronze areas and let that pull up in there. A little bit more. We got this little pendant, this little Nurgle pendant here. You can have some in those recesses quickly. And on this bronze part on the base, add a nice variation in colour down there too. And there we have it. One speed painted POXWALKER miniature, and you can see he's very bright, very over the top. The colours don't make a hell of a lot of sense, blue and purple skin, but you can see he's been wandering around some toxic waste areas. So, maybe that's kind of had a bit of an impact on the coloration of his skin. And of course it's Nurgle, so who's really going to ask any questions? But yeah, so that is how I approach speed painting. It's very liberal, very loose. I'm mixing on the fly. I tend to just use white and add it to the colours I've got available. It means that I can move through the miniature really quickly without having to kind of contemplate what the next colour is going to be. And the result is pretty good. It's not gonna, win you any awards, but you get a bunch of these all ready in an afternoon and you're gonna have something pretty awesome on the tabletop. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you learned a little bit about speed painting and something that you can take away and add to your own speed painting process. Tune in for the next one. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but it'll be fun, I'm sure. Bye.